You are listening to Key to the Bridge, brought to you by your friends at Keystone Therapy and Training Services, where we will be sharing human stories, talking about community resources, mental health, and wellness. This is a podcast for everyone. Welcome. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Key to the Bridge. Tonight I'm really excited to have, I always feel like I have some of my favorite people on the podcast, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second. And we're going to be talking about sports. I feel like I should have said
we need the 1999 Chicago Bulls
or
warm-up music happening right now.
That's what we need when we say sports, right?
Something,
or
from North Carolina.
Exactly. We needed, next time we should work a little better on that. But welcome to our podcast today. And we're going to be checking in on sports, wellness, mental health, how it relates to communities, adults, youth, all the things about sports that we can get into the time that we have today. And next time, or I just keep the dun, 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 dun. We need some of that. Y'all ready for this? We should have done something like that.
Cool. Jump jams
or the SBN, like the Sports Center. Yep. There we go. Great. Did the intro.
Love it.
Awesome. So with that, I'll let you two introduce yourselves, and if you can tell us a little bit how you are and have been connected to the world of sports, that would be awesome. So pick which one you want to go first.
Sure. I'll go first.
Okay.
Troy was like, go. Mm-hmm. I'm Veronica Bosque, currently program manager here at Keystone. My connection to sports has really been a lifelong endeavor where at 3, I got put in my first gymnastics class, and I haven't looked back since. And that not only extended by being a student athlete, but also a high school and collegiate basketball referee, and I was involved in high school athletic administration for a number of years. I also have my master's in sport management from USF, and I'm a pretty solid sports fan, getting into Premier League football, because why not go across the pond to also cheer for teams at early in the morning?
So what you mean is your whole life?
My whole life.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thanks. That's perfect.
Did you watch that Beckman
yes,
documentary?
Of course I did.
I'm interested in it now, yeah.
Right, that I cared about a 1998 World Cup game from my couch. Yep, that I already knew the result. Yeah, 100%.
For reals. Go for it, friend.
Troy Stevenson, born and raised in beautiful Santa Rosa, California. Been involved in sports in a lot of different kind of areas, everything from West Side Little League, which doesn't even exist anymore. So I dated myself there for those who remember West Side Little League. Mm-hmm. Baseball, soccer, then eventually got into a lot of basketball. Played for Coach Tom Fitchie over at Montgomery High School with a successful group. Went on to play at Santa Rosa Junior College. Came back years later and was on staff with Craig McMillan for 9 years. Got involved with some youth basketball. Back in the day, it was called the Sonoma County Cagers. Now, within the last year, a good friend of mine, Justin Richardson, started the California Storm, a travel basketball team that's at the new basketball training facility, the Bunker Hoop House. And then the cherry on the sundae is I was your intern.
Well, that's right.
You were also my first basketball coach.
And that's right, yeah, at camp. Oh, yeah, we'll get into that. That's a great story.
Yeah, that's because when you're in community, we're all connected.
Right.
That's just how it rolls. So I'm really excited to have both of you here because, yes, I also too. I should say we are still athletes. I was heavily involved in soccer. I was a swimmer, and I also did triathlons for a really long time. And I have also watched millions of hours of sports because the people I love sports in a way that I don't know about that level of love, but I've observed the level of love that people like yourselves have for sports. So I feel like I should have a medal, just like a spectator, because I've sat in so many sporting events.
Sure.
There should be an award for that. Mm-hmm. I would win maybe a lot. So I wanted to talk about it because what is happening in sports is it is everywhere. I feel like it used to be something that, you were either kind of into it or you were not, or you had a team and maybe it was football or baseball or basketball or whatever. And it was a little bit more of you had your click, like if that was like the thing that you wanted to do. But now even the idea of sports and what you could be interested in and what you do and what it looks like and how you're connected has grown so much. And so, thinking about you all, like what are some of the trends that you're noticing just generally in sports that you think are helpful in the way sports could work and support our community, and maybe some ways that are challenging or not serving us in the best ways? Yeah, solve all the problems about sports.
Absolutely. I was like,
go.
I'll go. Unless you're ready to go. I gave you the nod, but now I'm like,
did.
all right,
you
okay.
Go. You go.
I love sports because it. I think it teaches all of these life skills. So we can go into that. I know that it changed my trajectory, and it was like there during like rough times in life, and I'm like, oh, that's what kept me going on like a straight path, is having these consistent coaches there and teammates and just all these things. So I love that about, trying to give to our community and student athletes. The thing that the trend I'm seeing is there's a lot more opportunities these days. And a lot of sports you can go year round, which back in the day you couldn't do it. And I think there's kind of it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. I will echo your statement about having a thing, like extracurricular activity, and like what that would do in order to keep you busy, right? And so you wanted to do well in school so you could stay eligible, so you could play and practice and do all those things. So there was some external motivation that actually worked to your physical, mental, emotional benefit. The part about playing year-round now, which I'm still weighing whether or not we call specialization, is actually benefiting a student athlete's experience or not. Because I was a 3-sport athlete, and that designation has mostly gone away because of the more opportunities to be a year-round soccer player, a year-round basketball player, a swimmer, pick anything, and you can find a club-level option that would potentially prevent you from playing another sport. But at the same time, that specialization is necessary if you want to be able to continue a career at the next level, to where that's the practice, that's the extra time, that's the extra energy you get to spend in order to then, if wanting to play in college is a goal, or wanting to make a Olympic development team or anything like that, you need to be exposed, you need to be able to have the opportunity and hopefully succeed. And so knowing all of those things, then what does that do to your overall like athletic experience if you've somehow pigeoned yourself, hold yourself to one thing?
That's funny you talked about the 3-sport athlete. And I've thought about that recently too. I was like, oh, back in the day, that was like a common thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
that's... Did you have a Letterman jacket? I mean, I think about like that dating of like that's what you were, a 3-sport athlete. Like most male athletes who had the jacket with like, the letter and the football and the basketball and the track or the baseball or whatever.
I remember asking someone like, remember back in the day, it seemed like the PE teacher was the football coach, the basketball coach, and the baseball coach. How are they able to do it? And someone said, oh, because back then there's nothing during the summer.
Yep.
So they could take that break.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, and their seasons weren't also that long.
Right.
Right? And so you could do all of that because football had 10 games and there were no playoffs. If your team qualified, it was maybe 1 or 2 rounds and then you were done. Now you can have, winter sports is, day 4 into tryouts. And if you're a good enough team that's playing in state tournament, you're done midway third week of March. Mm-hmm. So now I have a 5-month season instead of what was historically a 2.5 to 3 month season. And so if I wanted to play baseball, or if I wanted to run track, or if I wanted to transition into anything, you're then having to make this choice around like, well, I still want to play basketball because my basketball team's good, or like all of those things. And also for the coaches, where they used to be able to diversify their school year, not anymore.
it's just interesting because what I hear you saying is like the professionalizing of, right now we're kind of just talking about like the professionalizing of like youth sports, which is like an interest, or student sports, which I would say is a trend. Like, I mean, I think about it's happening everywhere, right? Like, so if we're talking about college sports, well, let's be clear. Some college sports are becoming professional sports because they can act as professionals, they can have a career, they can make money, they can do all sorts of things. And so that I do think is like affecting how sports are used, because you can't now just, I feel like it's hard to find anything that feels like a rec league. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's, it's hard to find anything that is intramural or anything that is just like for, I mean, that's not true. There's some really rad pickleball leagues that are kind of intense, but they still, to me, have like a rec vibe, you know? But there's very few things I feel like that are now kind of staying at that level for youth or adults. Everything is just kind of intense. Like it doesn't have a casualness to it at all.
There are, just from like the basketball standpoint, I feel like there's a few good entry points, and that's what I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and so I'm like, I'm coaching older teams for the most part, but I'm seeing it from her perspective, which is a reminder of like, oh yeah, like this is a really good league just to have fun, to learn some basics, and then it's like there's plenty, like there's all these, I think there's steps to it where the specialization aspect, I'm okay like high school if that's like you just love that sport. But if you like multiple sports and coaches are putting pressure on you not to play another sport, that's when I got a discrepancy.
Yeah, absolutely. And for overall just like physical development, where like we actually weren't built to repeatedly do the same motion over and over and over again. And so,
well, you're an athlete who's like lived the consequences of being specialized and doing some injuries.
Oh,
yeah.
So many injuries from doing things, the exact same thing, thousands of times.
Yes.
Thousands.
Well, you mentioned two sports. You mentioned gymnastics and swimming, which I think with, the 3 big sports, or maybe 4 sports up here being I'd say soccer. Initially, I was thinking like we were talking football, basketball, and baseball, but let's talk soccer and then throw volleyball into the mix. But I'm like, gymnastics and swimming is just, I think that's like something to put into like a healthy recipe.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting to think about it, because I guess when we're talking about sports and wellness, I think about the fact that we're losing some of the opportunities for it to actually be something that helps people be well, even, and that you're, I don't know, like that you used to have fun while exercising and you were playing a game and you were being in community, and that was it. Like that was it. And now it isn't just that. I mean, I think about the amount of energy spent on even making everything seem and look like insanely professional and like hardcore, right? Like even with youth sports, I'm like, wow. I mean, do we need that banner? I mean, it's an intense banner for 6-year-olds. Like, can we just maybe not? I mean, maybe it's just a banner one game, like made out of paper, versus you asking me for $25 towards a banner that looks like a professional sports team. Like, do we need that? It's just an interesting professionalizing, and also too like the commercialization too of like everything that we're talking about, and like how does that help in the wellness of the people who are participating? Because not everybody is going D1. You know what I'm saying? Like most people want to talk about the data, right? So if we know most people aren't going to be going D1 and not playing or doing anything at the professional level, like what is the purpose of the sport? Like, what is it that, like, why are people doing it? And we're moving away from it. Sometimes I feel like being more based on being well.
I'd hope the goal when promoting whatever sport is that it's like a lifelong friend, and like
Yep, absolutely.
It's like a buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, sports. Nice to see you. Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, that Division I, like, carrot is, and and then I work at the community college where I meet with a lot of student athletes, and that's like what they want to talk about, and it's like, let's get a good education, let's see what a good fit is. My little secret goal is just hopefully that one day you'll be able to coach your kids or coach a community team and get back to the game that's been, that's treated you well and got you to a certain point. But yeah, you kind of referenced the name, image, likeness.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're the goal. I mean, don't you want to be in a video game? I mean, like let's.
Yeah.
Why not?
The landscape is totally changing, and
Yep.
And I was just listening to something that was kind of saying, hey, the NBA is like this entertainment, it's not so much like a game like we, in the early 80s, and, it was a physical game. It's closer to WWE now than like a pure basketball game. And I know I've been to a Warriors game where I'm like, there's just so much going on, like during the timeouts, and it's entertainment.
Yeah.
So much going on.
There is.
Hey, you can't even go get like a hot dog because like you might miss like the T-shirt launcher or like the 50,000 screens like blinking at you with things and all of the stuff. I mean, there's a lot. Yeah. I mean, or you can't buy a hot dog because it costs like $45.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, there's that other problem.
There's also that.
That's a different problem. I mean, that's a different problem. I remember we used to go to the Warriors game and no one. Well, you could just go. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I'm just like also thinking too, leading into like, okay, how do people start in sports? Usually, not always, but usually it's when they're young. And, thinking about how that relates to people's health, right? That if they are getting to like move and learn how to use their bodies. So what are some of the ways too that we think that youth, or I would just say young people, sports activities are being helpful, or like things that are not so great? I mean, I know, Troy, like you have a list.
I brought a list.
I think we should start maybe with your list.
Like the top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, let's start with your list of what are we calling this? Like the top 10 things you love and don't love about youth sports. I mean, you have to drink water before this list. Right. All right, you take a sip.
Right.
Get ready.
I'm relaxing my shoulders.
Yeah, I'm very excited about your list to hit on.
Now I'm a Gemini.
Okay, I understand.
So
am I.
I started with the positives.
Oh, okay, great.
But then, we can go straight to the the things that are grinding my gears.
Oh.
Do you want me to balance it out? You want me to go straight?
Let's go. What do you go ahead, V Duggar? You want to go start negative, go positive, or positive, go negative?
Balance it out.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to say one thing you like and then one thing you don't like.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, youth sports. And a lot of it, 99% of it is through basketball.
Okay. All right. Okay. It's good to know your lens, but I'm sure it all applies.
It all applies.
Okay.
The lack of officials, it's trending down, and it's going to hurt the game. So why are there lack of officials? You want to say this one?
That was thing number one. Okay, wait. Okay, so that's something you don't like. Is the lack of officials.
Yeah, because where that's going is there's going to be less games, less opportunities.
Less opportunities.
I think out in Sacramento last year, they need something like 250 referees to be able to do all their high school stuff. They're at like 125, a bunch of like games have gotten chopped.
Okay, we're going to put a pin in that for 5 seconds until Troy's done with this list, and then we'll let you come back because Veronica's going to have a nice monologue to crush what you just said in the best loving way. Okay, go ahead. Next. So this is now something you do like.
Well, then it kind of comes with the disrespect, like parents, athletes, and coach give officials. Mm-hmm. In the last year, actually, you'll love this. The first AAU game, travel basketball, I took my 5-year-old at the time and my 1-year-old at the time. Coach goes after the official twice. Mm-hmm. Parents have to come in and separate them. Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking at my kids and I'm just looking at I'm like, welcome to AAU basketball.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. Like this kind of like the universe telling me, all right, decided to bring him to this game. This happened. Mind you, this was 12-year-old's game.
Well, of course it was.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
But it's
it's real serious.
Yeah. Next, anyone can kind of create a team or become a coach, and that can be good and bad, and you just never know what you're going to get. Like you don't need to take a test.
Nope.
Yep. Don't even need to have played the sport, right? Hey, I've watched it. I played the video game.
Can you be first aid and
you want some
CPR
type of qualifications for a coach? No, we take who we can get because it's hard to get people to do it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
So with that, I just think, you get a lot of people emphasizing the wrong thing at a certain age. Seeing coaches just, berate young athletes. And I'm like, oh, if this is what you're doing in front of everyone in the gym right now, it's 10 times as worse just when it's practice. And so that's a huge one that grinds my gears. Usually motivates me as a coach. Like, all right, let's really talk nice to our team right now, right?
Nothing but compliments.
Good job, Veronica. Right. That defensive stance, just like
model the behavior you'd like to see. That sometimes helps.
There's kind of you might have heard about it, like Steph Curry ruined the game. And from what I see, it's like, okay, Steph Curry is a great three-point shooter. He can dribble. He's the son of Del Curry, who was an amazing basketball player. His upbringing was such an outlier, just who he was around. So now it's like, hey, we're lucky enough to have that as our local team, game on TV every night. And over the years, I started picking up on it. It's like, oh, kids come in. They're jacking up half-court shots from the get-go. And just like, okay, what you didn't see in that game is that Steph Curry did this workout to warm himself up, and he shot really close to the basket 50 times, and then he took a step out and shot it 50 times. He didn't just come in and just start jacking it up. So it's just kind of, hey, back to the media. There's a ton of media out there, like with obviously social media, that is, I think, just seeing too much of that. Everyone looks good at a highlight reel, and they want to go out and do it. Young people learn how to play without the ball. I caught this is kind of rumorville, but I've been hearing from a couple credible sources that just certain let's see if I can be diplomatic here. Certain successful youth sports program are like putting pressure on like sixth graders to like not play other sports because they're like, hey, you need to stick with this. And then they're putting that vision of like, hey, you want to go on and get D1, get the scholarship, and be sixth grade and being like, all right, I got to choose, but I really want to do these three things.
Yep.
And
Yeah. I mean,
it's a specialization.
And then I want to change a word that I often hear. I hear and this is like young middle school, even younger, like, oh, we got to go out to get exposure. And I think the word is you just want experience. And meaning like one thing is there's probably too many games and there needs to be more practice. But I get it when you're the kids and you're like, hey, you love the games, right? Like, hey, you're going to let me eat dessert? I'll eat dessert.
Right. Yeah.
But like if you force me to eat more vegetables, then eventually I'm going to force and I'm going to get healthy. And then when I have that dessert, but I think it's just more putting yourself in having that experience of like, okay, we've played a few teams throughout the Sonoma County. We know where we're at, but now we want to go to different parts of the state and kind of just gauge where our development is. But I'm just like, I don't think anyone is getting that scholarship in fifth grade.
no, I mean, I don't think anybody is getting a scholarship in fifth grade.
Right.
Like, I mean, you're lucky if they remember their shoes. So it's
Sure.
just an odd set of pressure on, like, I don't know, 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
What happened to the Sandlot? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happened?
And are kids still like getting with friends and like
I don't
going
even
and
know.
play?
Do
Like
people?
that? I thought about that too.
Well, I don't know if you can go with your friends if everybody's on a club team. So like when are you supposed to go to the Sandlot or whatever? Or what happened to like Air Bud? That was another movie we watched. My kids brought that up. The dog played basketball. Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? People just have a good time. You were with your friends.
Right.
You played outside and you played sports. And just because. So there's no time for that because I'm at 4 practices a week so I can get ready for the, I don't know, the like 15 tournaments I have to go to this year because I'm 12 and I've only get to pick one sport. Boo.
And then we have burnout.
Well,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. I mean, it's an interesting problem. Okay, that was it. Like
So
your,
yeah, that was my.
That's your nose.
Oh, well, there's one more I forgot.
Okay, there's one more now.
This
Okay.
is a good one.
Okay.
The parents that come onto the bench and try to coach their kid after like their child has been brought out of the game instead of just like letting them just, hey, talk to them in the car maybe after the game, but like there's nails on the chalkboard. Every time I see it, I was just kind of like, that's my nails on the chalkboard of like, okay, there needs to be that time and there's separation. Let the coach do their thing. Let the kid deal with some adversity. It's okay to have adversity in a healthy way, and then communicate with them after the game, But,
or don't, and just let them chill with the adversity and say, hey, you know what? I saw you do a really good job. If you want to talk about how that went down, like I'm here to listen.
Sure.
But sometimes you don't want to get in the car and have your parents like,
absolutely,
I don't know, hash out a bunch of stuff that you don't really want to talk about yet.
Yep, I totally agree.
I mean, I think about the amount of kids that probably just get in the car and they're like, oh, dude, don't talk to me. Here we go. Okay, those are all the things you don't like.
Yeah.
What do you do like?
Okay, I do like the Bunker Hoop House and the new facility.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was waiting for your marketing statement on this new.
Yeah.
Bunker House.
Yeah. No, I do like that that there is the opportunities to play if it's a good fit for you, you're passionate about it. I like that just a lot more than when we grew up, right?
Definitely.
The menu is great. I was driving down today and I was just like, oh, softball, there's an option right there. They're signing up right now. It probably goes year round. That's fine. But like, hey, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities for kids to work with like trainers, whether it's just like body mechanics, functional movement, balance stuff, or like individual to the sport. Like
what is prehab and rehab? Like when we didn't do any of that. I think about how I even think about like what warm up meant in like 1993. I don't even know what I don't even know doing. I don't know. We didn't. I mean, like you kind of like did some stuff.
Yep.
I mean, I would be like warmed up, but like nobody was teaching me, right? Like about what you're talking about, training your body mechanics, or that a warm up might actually mean lunging or moving your arms around. I mean, like just even like different stuff that we're now doing for little kids' bodies. I mean, my lovely child, oldest, I mean, he sometimes now is like going to the chiropractor. Now, granted, we have the resources and the privilege of being able to send him to the chiropractor. A lot of people don't have that, but I can already see like how helpful that is on his ankles and his knees and his feet and his hips because he's pounding on them in flag football and dance and just being a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
But like nobody knew, I don't know, just like, so you're right, having access to information, trainers, how to care for your body. So hopefully you have less surgery by the time you're 18.
There's more out there about like all of that recovery, nutrition, just things of that for the longevity. Okay, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. There is, the stuff that they can go access, back to media, YouTube, like, hey, I could watch that Premier game, and I could study that. I don't think they do that as much as I'd like for them to do, but like, I can access, we're talking about the Chicago Bulls, the game when Michael Jordan played with the flu and, watch that. And just kind of like talk about someone dealing with adversity and you could see it on his face. I like a lot of like I mentioned earlier, like a lot of the like entry points for the different leagues. It's a lot of like church leagues that I'm a big fan of. You got Sonoma State starting a very good league. YMCA, CYO's been around for years. I'm a big advocate of CYO elementary schools. I think we have good coaches in here in our area. The Mike Ericksons, the Travis Taylors. We got Alec Cobre over at Windsor now. And
Montgomery grad.
Montgomery.
Okay, we're totally
Steve
biased.
Barrow.
But, okay.
I know. 3 Montgomery here.
Yeah, it's okay.
I know.
It's okay. Go Vikings. Yep.
So those are a lot of things I do like.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm sure a few others will come to me.
Yeah.
So, Havy, listening to his list from the perspective of a referee.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What are
So
what are your thoughts on why sportsmanship and professionalism and all those things are not doing so hot?
The general description for a referee is like you're an adjudicator, right? So you're a constant negotiator, and your opinion of a play is literally the only thing that matters. And like that weight and impact, depending on how well a referee can actually execute that, means a win or a loss, depending on what happens, right? Assuming two teams are equal. What that does for people who are not participating is now we have some freedom to judge, right? That based on your judgment, was that a good call or not? That gets up for debate.
Well,
how we get to settle that debate is why, unfortunately, referees are leaving, because their ability to maintain control and power on a court, and I use those words purposefully, can quickly diminish if you have a coach yelling and screaming at you, you have players yelling and screaming at you, you have parents yelling and screaming at you, and unless you're a pretty prominent Division I official, you're not making enough money to like help justify the punishment and the abuse and the torture you're getting. And so why would I want to put myself out there if I know it's going to be a nightmare?
Someone's going to be mad at me.
Someone's going to be mad at me. And how are they going to communicate that madness or anger is going to, potentially directly affect how I'm going to personally feel, which at least as an official, like, you care because like that's your job and you want to be able to perform your job well. And at least for me personally, when I went out and I did a game, I wanted to make sure that I was doing the best that I could in the moment that I had. And of course you make mistakes. You're not perfect. No one is. But when you have coaches and or players and or parents that are absolutely screaming disparaging remarks at you over and over and over and over, and you exhaust all the tools you have in the toolkit, that at least within high school there are some rules as far as what you are hopefully able to do if somebody really gets out of line, right? Like I can throw you out of the building and we don't have to resume play until you're gone. And if you don't want to leave, then this game's over and we're out.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it. In AAU, it's a little bit different. In some of the club rules, they have just different behavior models and who actually gets to enforce those things. If I'm an official and I'm refereeing 9 AAU games today, and by game 4 or 5, right? Like I'm tired, kids are tired, coaches are tired, and we're at a church gym with no security. What happens if that parent comes down off the bench or whatever? So it's hard. It's really, really hard. And our capacity for tolerance really diminished with, fires here in Sonoma County and then COVID and however those life events, how that affected you, at least for most people. I don't want to put up with that. I can go do something else to where like I don't need to do that. And I'll say from a generation of officials that we've all gotten older, and I put myself in that category that we've all gotten older.
100%.
And, there were still referees that I was working with that used to referee me when I was in high school that were still doing this job because they found some love and joy out of it. And then once you lose all of that, we're done. And then the unfortunate part is there hasn't been a really robust training model that's like proven to be successful, because you would hope that people who played, hopefully, or at least have a sense of the game, would want to get into officiating because that keeps you in the game.
Sure.
But that doesn't happen. Because
if you were a player and you watched a referee be verbally or physically assaulted for most of your youth career, like why would you sign up for that job? It would look like the worst job ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I had a magic wand, you want to coach, you have to referee. You have to go through and like experience like.
Oh,
like,
look at that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I like that as a training model.
So years ago, I helped organize the high school summer league. So that's how I got to know all like the referees around here, because a lot of them like the same thing. I knew them from my playing experience, and now I'm like, okay, wait a second here. Where is the, how are we going to feel? Where are we going? Where are the rookies we're going to train? We got to, and it's like, the well's getting dry, and I'm just getting nervous.
Oh yeah.
Well, because it's just interesting, because what I get to watch with sports is it gets all of the like the shiny excitement, right? Like being a spectator, right? Like, I mean, I didn't play basketball, I didn't play football. Soccer is different. It's like harder to yell at your ref because you're like outside. It's like a little bit of it. You can yell at your ref.
Proximity helps.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Baseball too. There's some different things, but it's just interesting to think about too, that the way the whole just like vibe of spectating of sports has just changed. Mm-hmm. Like it used to be a community gathering. You know what I mean? So if I were to like date ourselves and I were to think about going to a high school basketball game, there was a level of heckling that happened, but then kind of everybody kind of knew where that was supposed to stop. Mm-hmm. Why? That referee was somebody you knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you had a community connection. And so I think about that in general, like in terms of like the health of sports, like in the community, especially if we're talking young people, because some of it now is like you might not be doing something that's healthy. Like you might be signing people up for a little bit of, or a lot of like a toxic kind of experience. And so I keep wondering like how our kind of like, thinking about this question as we're kind of wrapping up a little bit of what we're talking about here, but like, what do we think we're going to do moving forward to like get back to a place where like sports are more about being in community, exercising your body, being well, doing all of the lovely, amazing, like psychology stuff that you all were talking about like why you were an athlete. You were an athlete because it felt good.
And all we do is win.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Cue the music.
Just to be clear, just wanted to make sure I put that in there. Winning.
What? Yeah. All we do is win, right? Because there's like that amazing high of accomplishing. We'll just say when you accomplish, when you succeed, like how we're going to like work on getting back to that. Because if I get one more meme about like Taylor Swift and like the NFL, or what's going on with like a famous person playing sports, or a parent who has assaulted somebody on like that's not what's being shared or marketed as a community, like within sports. It's all about the entertainment or the fame or whatever. And at a community level, what do you think we should be focusing on here so that we could get back, I think, to making it more of a healthy experience? Yeah. Answer all that question right now. Go. Thinking about the things.
Well, community building is, I think, not like a subjective task, but how do you create positive relationships in time of competition, right? And so, because that's really what a sport has as like a factor, right? That you are competing, and the level in which you compete varies. But the idea is that, using a basketball example, there is an offensive player and a defensive player, right? And two teams that are theoretically, whether or not score is being kept or whatever, is
you're competing. But it's supposed to be.
And so how can that still be like a positive interaction when, to take to your point, like when people are not necessarily well? And so your emotional capacity to process, somebody scored on me because I didn't get down in my defensive stance, or I didn't read that screen coming across,
or they're just better than me. Like they're better. Right.
Also that.
They're better than
also
me.
That. And so, right, like to use your example, player gets subbed out because they can no longer stay with that player for any number of reasons. When that player comes to the bench, coach has an opportunity to provide hopefully some positive feedback, and we're not yelling and screaming or anything. But then for that player to then internalize and process positively that, like, I don't hate that player that was taking me to the hoop every time down the floor. I want to be able to watch that player and like, why are they doing that to me? And I want to be able to go back to practice tomorrow and work on whatever it is that I can so that I'm that player next time or anything like that. But that takes so much connection and that takes so much motivation. And how does that happen at a level and like consistently and positively to where the negative interactions decrease? Because that's what's hard. Like as a coach, you're managing not only yourself, but however many players you have, assistant coaches,
Sure.
parents, all of those wonderful things. And that management is really, really important into the overall experience of a career, right? We all had, thankfully, wonderful and positive coaches that kept us in the game. I don't know how, like, my athletic experience would have shifted if I wasn't personally, emotionally connected to my coach, that I wanted to do well because I respected that person.
And your team.
And your team.
And the
then,
parents who were watching you and you knew you were like safe and like all those things. I mean, I also showed up for fruit snacks, Capri Suns, orange slices, and the granola bar. Okay. Kudos. Where is kudos?
I know, sorry.
I'm so in 1993 right now. Kudos bar. We need to bring those back. I mean, I just think like, you know what I mean? Like as a kid, I wasn't thinking about a career in being an athlete. I was thinking about doing it because I liked it and because I was good at some things and things like that. And I think like that's the wellness of sport that you are mentioning, you know, Veronica, too. And I was connected, you know, like to the community of whoever I was working with. And right now I think we're in an odd space where there's like a disconnect between
Well, we're out of practice.
Yeah, I don't.
Got out of practice.
Yeah, we've gotten a little distracted.
We got out of practice.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you're thinking about maintenance, how do we effectively get back to practicing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty serious sports analogy for what we're talking about right now. We're out of practice. Interesting.
Let's host a summit. Let's get like, you know.
Troy, don't toy with my emotions. I'm always down to host a summit. Okay,
hey, I'm going to talk to you two. We're going big.
Let's go big. I'm big. What kind of summit are we hosting? What are we doing?
You know, it's kind of like the things that we're talking about. Like, see if we can whittle it down to like 3 to 5 major things. But it's like, I feel like with the basketball community, I'd love to get everyone, you know, all these different leagues, the directors, the coaches from the high school, the college that are around here, because we all know each other.
Yeah.
And then even those that want to be interested.
Yep.
And just, you know, some of the things that we're talking about, it's like, I think there's going to be agreement, but just like kind of like, hey, get everyone around the table real quick.
Yeah,
all right?
quick.
Let's make
talk
sure.
about
Let's
it.
just check in real quick.
Let's talk about it.
There's some things that are going on, all right, and open to ideas, but like it would be kind of fun to see from the different sports, you know, what like the ones we're talking like soccer. This area's got to be soccer's the best sport in this area, right?
We're pretty good.
Yeah, really good.
We're pretty good at soccer.
Really good. Then what's the next? I debated this like Monday morning at 3 a.m. when I realized I was going to be on your two podcasts. And I woke up like, I wonder what we're going to talk about.
I don't know what's going to be better. I don't know what's better. I just know that like I just think that counties like ours are not unique in America. Sports in counties like ours, you can be found all over this country, right? And if you have children in your community, sports are going to be there, and we are constantly talking about how are the health of our communities doing. And right now we're not doing so hot, you know, generally speaking. And, you know, I may not be the biggest sports fanatic. I can't tell you stats on anyone, but I do know that I like being in the community of sport.
Yeah.
You know, I do love that. I like showing up at flag football with my babies and, you know, being in community with each other. And I think that there's a real opportunity because most people aren't going to be professional athletes, right? Like the money isn't going to be necessarily what comes from it. So how can we, in communities like ours, use community of sport? Because that is like a culture that is here, and we don't lean on it in a way that could be better. That's my soapbox about
Yeah.
part of the summit conversation.
I think you just named the summit
We did.
Community of Sport, right?
Community of Sport. There it is.
Hey, title of podcast.
Right?
Community of Sport. You know, because
Well, and
I just think that's important.
Yeah. Well, and imagine where pressure of winning and losing can vary, obviously, about what level you're coaching or you're administrating or anything like that. But that if the initial purpose was for you to provide an experience to where you are potentially the first and last coach for this player. Right? And like, what if the paradigm shifted like that to where there is a possibility that every player on your team, that this is the last team they play for, that there will be a final game, there will be a final practice in their entire athletic career for the rest of their lives.
Well, I mean,
And
that's like, I mean, well, then we would have to say that a coach, which we know, just like anybody, I mean, just like all of the adults, right? Like, are part of how you are raised and how you are in community with people, regardless of how old you are.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask professional athletes about their coaches, they talk about their coaches in the same way we're talking about them now, about these are people who you care about in your life. And we don't necessarily value it that way. Referees are also those people. Parents in the stands are also those people. Your teammates are also those people. But you're right. Like we don't look at it from that
And if
perspective.
as a student athlete, that your experience is shaped by coach or captain or however kind of your team hierarchy works out, that there's a potential ceiling for you. And so how are you potentially going to maximize your experience to where once you hit that ceiling, you get to look back and say that this was a positive experience for me in this way, this way, and this way. And it's not necessarily stat driven that I played for a team that was undefeated and I led the team in rebounds. But rather, you know, we didn't have anybody drop out.
Yeah.
Or we made it through the season without any serious injuries.
Yeah.
Or
I had a lot of fun.
we set a new team tradition and I had a lot of fun.
I had so much fun.
And I had so much fun.
I mean, like,
Right.
what
And
a
that's it. And like that's how you got to gauge your overall experience.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would be great. That would be sports and wellness together. Any last words, Troy, before we wrap up our time? Any final thoughts?
Can I come back and we do a follow up to this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
You know, it went
I
by
mean,
pretty quick. You know, you
I mean,
guys
yeah,
got it like,
no, I know, I'm
feels
sorry.
like Cabo in here. It's like, 85 degrees?
I know, it is a little warm in here. Okay, but I think also too, like,
I was wondering. I was like, is it just warm or is it me? I know I have the scarf on, but I'm like,
okay.
this is breathable. And
No, it's okay. We got a little excited too. We're thinking about things. Yeah, no, I mean, you can totally come back because I just think that we need to continue being the role models of conversation of like, what do we have in our community that we can use to care for each other, be in community, and help each other be well. And sports are part of that.
Absolutely.
They're 100% part of that. So yeah, you can totally come back.
go team.
Yeah, I feel like I want to say like, what is it? 2468. Who do you appreciate?
Yeah.
Veronica, Troy, and Erica.
Yeah.
Go us. What? I need a kudos bar.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah,
and
thank
we'll
you.
see you next time. Thanks. You've been listening to Key to the Bridge, a podcast brought to you by your friends at Keystone Therapy and Training Services. I'm your host, Erica Bosque. Key to the Bridge is recorded and produced by Jeff Henderson and Brian Henderson. This is a podcast for everyone.